Georges Abdallah, from 40 years in French prison to freedom in Lebanon. Militant Georges Abdallah arrives in Lebanon after more than 40 years in French detention. Beirut AP, a Lebanese pro-Palestinian communist militant, arrived in Lebanon Friday following his release after more than 40 years in France. Georges Ibrahim Abdallah, 74, was sentenced to life imprisonment for complicity in the murders of 2 diplomats, one American and one Israeli, in Paris in 1982. He became eligible for parole in 1999, but multiple requests were denied. The Paris Court of Appeal ruled last week that Abdallah could be released on the condition that he leave the country and never return. Abdallah was sentenced to life imprisonment in 1987 for complicity in the assassinations of U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Charles Ray, who was stationed in Paris as an assistant military attaché, and Israeli diplomat Yaakov Bar-Simantov. He became eligible for parole in 1999, but multiple requests he filed since then were denied. In Lebanon, many saw Abdallah as a political prisoner. While there was no official event marking his return, a crowd of supporters, including a number of members of parliament, gathered outside the Beirut airport to wait for him. Some banged on drums and held up Palestinian and Lebanese Communist Party flag and a banner reading, "Georges Abdallah is free, a Lebanese, Palestinian and international freedom fighter on the road to liberating Palestine." Others stood along the highway leading to the airport, some holding flags of the militant group and political party Hezbollah. The crowd broke out in cheers upon hearing the plane carrying Abdallah had arrived. Wearing a Palestinian scarf and a red shirt, Abdallah stopped briefly to greet his supporters, before heading to his hometown of Kobayat, a Christian village in the mountains of northern Lebanon. Speaking to reporters upon his arrival, Abdallah called for Arab populations to take to the streets over the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza, saying that Gaza's children, all of them, are walking skeletons, while millions of Arabs are just watching. He called for confrontation of Israel, saying it is living the last chapters of its existence. There was no official statement from the US or Israel on Abdallah's release. Support PBS NewsHour. Georges Abdallah, a symbol of the Palestinian struggle, freed after 41 years. After 41 years behind bars, Georges Abdallah, a 74-year-old Lebanese teacher and symbol of the Palestinian cause, has finally tasted freedom. Released from a French prison, he now heads to Beirut. Convicted in 1987 for his role in the murders of 2 diplomats, one American and one Israeli, Abdallah's face has long been a fixture at left-wing demonstrations, his freedom a rallying cry for activists. Despite being eligible for parole since 1999, his release was repeatedly blocked, allegedly due to pressure from the US and Israel. Abdallah's story is a stark reminder of the complexities and controversies surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As he begins his new life, one can't help but wonder, will his release spark a new wave of activism, or will it be a footnote in the long and troubled history of the region? Pro-Palestinian Lebanese fighter freed from France, welcomed home in Beirut. In a significant turn of events, Georges Ibrahim Abdallah, a pro-Palestinian Lebanese fighter, has been released from a French prison after an astonishing 40 years behind bars. This release, which took place early on Friday, marks the end of a lengthy and controversial chapter in French legal history, as Abdallah had been incarcerated since 1984 for his involvement in the murders of 2 diplomats. Upon his release, French authorities stipulated that Abdallah must never return to France. His family was present to greet him at the VIP lounge of the airport, while a crowd of supporters gathered outside, proudly waving flags representing both Palestine and the Lebanese Communist Party. The atmosphere was electric, filled with chants and cheers as Abdallah made his appearance, with many supporters viewing him as a symbol of resistance against oppression, as reported by the AFP news agency. His return signifies the conclusion of one of the longest detentions of a political prisoner in France's history. Just before 3:40 a.m. local time, 11:30 GMT on Friday, a convoy of 6 vehicles, lights flashing, was seen departing from Lannemezan prison in southern France. Journalists from AFP confirmed that the 74-year-old Abdallah had been freed and subsequently boarded a flight to Lebanon. Abdallah was convicted in 1987 for his role in the assassinations of U.S. military attaché Charles Robert Ray and Israeli diplomat Yaakov Barsamantov in Paris. Despite being eligible for release for many years, his requests were repeatedly denied, often due to pressure from the United States, which was involved as a civil party in his case. Recently, the Paris Court of Appeal ruled in favor of his release, effective immediately, on the condition that he leave French territory permanently. His lawyer, Jean-Louis Chalancet, shared with AFP that Abdallah appeared very happy during their last meeting, although he is aware that he is returning to a challenging situation in the Middle East, particularly for the Lebanese and Palestinian communities. Abdallah, who founded the now-defunct Lebanese Revolutionary Armed Factions, has consistently identified himself as a militant with a struggle. At the time of his arrest, French police discovered submachine guns and communication devices in one of his residences. Notably, Abdallah has never shown remorse for his actions, maintaining that he is a fighter advocating for Palestinian rights rather than a criminal. The Paris court acknowledged that Abdallah's conduct during his imprisonment was exemplary and stated in November that he posed no serious risk of committing new acts of terrorism. The appeals court highlighted the excessive length of Abdallah's detention and his advanced age, deeming his continued imprisonment as disproportionate. In France, it is common for inmates serving life sentences to be released after less than 30 years. As Abdallah's family prepares to welcome him back at Beirut airport, they plan to travel to his hometown of Kobayat in northern Lebanon, where a celebratory reception is set to take place. This event not only marks a personal milestone for Abdallah, but also raises questions about the broader implications of his release and the ongoing struggles faced by the Palestinian people. What are your thoughts on this controversial figure's return? Do you see him as a hero or a criminal? Share your opinions in the comments below.